draw 6 cards every turn, Cell Surge can just as easily rip those 6 cards out before he even does anything for the turn. So it'll be interesting to see where this fine line between how fast can Wang go and how much life can he rip down before Cell Surge just keeps on taking those cards away. So I'm really looking
All
forward to this
right.
match.
All right, we have seen that the game has started. So the first Wang Po is he's gonna start with the Green Broly starter leader, placing down the first energy. I've heard so much about the deck. Unfortunately, I do not have any opportunity to cast Poan's matches right now, but I've seen a lot of self search. So I'm really interested to see. Do you think that when it comes to hand destruction, which deck does have the advantage?
Well,
I would
specifically,
definitely. Oh, you
you
go
go,
for it,
Kev, you
John.
go, you go, you go.
I was just say Cell Surge definitely, in terms of pure hand destruction, Cell Surge has the ability to rip the most cards from a hand in a single turn. But over the length of a game, the amount of cards it can remove kind of dwindles down. Whereas I think Broly has these 4 drop crit 20Ks, which are kind of like a pseudo hand destruction. And the 7 drop itself, with that 6 on board, every turn it stays around, it's just going to rip another card from hand. And if uh, if Jeremy can't answer that, then it's just going to be a huge problem for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big thing as well is that like the thing Cell Surge always tries to do, it always tries to get you down to 0 cards in hand in one particular turn, and then from that one time, it mathematically goes through how do I take you from whatever life total you are to 0 without giving you an additional card, right? Whether it's like giving you one
Mm-hmm.
card then making you discard it, or constantly doing critical swing hits, right? Once Broly gets the 6 cards in hand, 6 cards for Cell Surge isn't actually a lot. That's honestly like maybe you can resolve 2 Ribriannes, your leader skill, and then once you get Dark Broly in a sound play, just resolve that as well. So I think the deck has fairly easy ways to completely rip your hand to shreds in just one single turn. But that being said, he is on the back foot here going second, which means Poe will actually be able to like get his board established. He'll be able to get this big Broly card that Kevin was speaking about too, the 7 drop to actually apply his own pressure. Because Cell Surge, even though it has the ability to rip away at your hand, it actually doesn't generate a lot of cards on its own. Yes, it has some powerful cards in the drop area, like this SR from set 10 that lets you take a life and draw a card. Yes, it can easily put draw apes in the drop area. But that being said, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It doesn't like explode in hand sizes like decks such as Icarus.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the Green Broly itself, Starter Broly, do you think the ability to draw up to 6 it's actually problematic for the deck, or it's actually giving an advantage? Because you can kind of argue both ways, right? The first way is that okay, hand destruction really doesn't affect him that much because the next turn he is going to be drawing up to 6. But at the same time, because his limit it's kind of like 6, so he doesn't really have a lot of fodder in his hands just to tank that hand destruction.
I think it's like I get what you're saying, but I think it's just the cool thing about the deck, it kind of just makes it weirdly consistent, right? Like you always get to cycle your entire hand. It's kind of the thing where you just see card, use card, right? Not really. I'm gonna hold this card on for later, right? Even if it is his SCR, for example. You just want to kind of see the cards you get and constantly resolve them back to back to back, right? You don't really care
Mhm.
about like holding on to like your best cards for later on because you just want to see other cards, right? That's why we always see him throughout the tournament resolve like 3 super combos within the first 2 turns of the game, right? And that's just a crazy thing that the deck can do.
Mhm.
I think drawing up to 6 is like it is. I think overall for the deck, the archetype how it functions, it is better than being able to draw like a lot more cards. It just lets it be such a consistent weapon that honestly, like it always surprises people when they see it. People aren't expecting the deck to be as good as it does, and thanks to the inclusion to so many effects that can get resolved from the drop area, right? Such as this particular Zarbon that is comboing off, and such as Rebrian's as well. It's not even that big of a deal if you constantly lose your hand because you can use half of it later on in the game anyway.
Mhm. So here we go. We can see that the Zarbon has made its appearance on the board itself. This card can be played from the from the drop area, and when it comes in, it is also fodder. Here we go. We can see. Okay, so just counting the number of cards in his hands, he's below it, so he doesn't get that effect off. It doesn't really affect Cell though, because a lot of cards that he can actually afford to drop into the drop area, because no matter what, most of his play, especially in the early stage of the game, it's gonna be from the drop area.
Yeah, and just a quick note, I think even though we're in the early turns of the game already, Wang's honestly at a bit of an advantage here. One thing about Cell Surge is that if you don't actually interact with the Cell Surge leader, right, if you don't really need to attack it that much, it actually doesn't have the option to like self-awaken that fast unless you see the sell cards, and the only real optimal way to put those cards in the drop row is with the leader skill. And as we can see now, he's only sitting on, I believe, 4 cards in hand and on 7 life. So for a bit of the game here, I don't think that Poe's gonna have to worry about that nasty sell surge skill to pretty much deny him an entire turn, or even just KO a card and rip a card from hand, because honestly he's not really close to that being an option. It's still, to be fair, it is still fairly early in the game. It is still only turn 2, but I think he's like already at a little bit of an advantage here at the start of the game. He can constantly recycle that Zarbon, and we'll have to see how he goes about it for the rest of the game.
One thing I will note though is that Wang did not get the 4-drop rolling out, which would have been a huge plus for him right now. Being able to swing into your opponent when they have really no way to defend, and they do need those cards from life because they realistically only draw 1 card a turn by themselves. It would have been a huge advantage to him. So Wang hasn't been able to reach the full potential of his deck. So we'll have to see how he can continue on.
Yep. But however, I believe that Wang has been Poan here has already been in this situation for such a long time, so he should be able to know what to do in this situation. I believe that he's definitely very well prepared. A big shout out also to Poan over here for wearing a Dragon Ball T-shirt. I think that says like Yamcha is dead or something.
That is Yamcha. That is Yamcha.
One of the most famous, how would you call it? Scenario scenes or position?
Just a moment.
Yeah, something like that.
Moment.
Yeah, you know what I really like. Yeah, it's like in Dragon Ball Super. What they did was that they actually recreated a scene in a baseball game, and they just turned it around for Yamcha. So such huge love for characters like that.
Of course. The Dragon Ball cares about their characters a lot, you know. They're giving them a lot of screen time, so it's cool to see that they're giving, like, they kind of try and give everyone their moment.
And so let's hope that we see a return of Launch.
Of course.
All right, here we go. Oh, he is going to be swinging now. Okay, that is interesting. So he swings out against the Unison, just try to reduce the amount of markers on the Unison card.
Yeah, of course. It's like there's no real reason to swing into the Broly leader right now. Again, we're talking about it briefly before. You only really want to go for game once you can mathematically rip your opponent away from their hand. This Demigra being just a casual 15k swing, a casual target for Broly to swing into, and probably not really wanting to swing into that often. Like, yes, you can clear the Demigra, but if you have skills, sure. But if you just keep going, just face into it, your opponent will be like Jeremy will be drawing a lot of cards thanks to the permanent skill allowing him to take life instead. And as we can see, it's only been 1 turn since, like, you know, we're talking about that his hand wasn't that crazy, so it feels like it's doubled in size. Honestly, his hand's much bigger now. He's in a more comfortable position, like he's resolved the draw as well as another of the cell cards. So I think he's it's a bit of a slower couple of turns, of course, kind of what you'd expect from these hand destruction decks, but I think we're about to get into the phase of the game where it becomes much more explosive, and now it's just to see what Poe decides to do.
Yep. So Kevin, how well versed are you with this SS Bardock's Paternal Unison?
So I have actually played this Broly deck when it first came out. So I played the aggro version, and then I did play this kind of hand destruction version. So I'm pretty well versed. So this Unison is actually one of the Unisons I consider very sleeper. The ability to rip away a combo effect, a combo card, is an effect that I love in the game. So like the other Broly cards, which have a similar one, it's just a great card to generate value where you normally wouldn't get it from. Just being able to pseudo remove a card from hand. So dropping the Rosie though, huge play from Poang, being able to triple attack, not even going to swing in with it seems. Because it was
they got KO'd by
charismatic
there.
Okay, this is a very interesting play, right? Because if you're gonna play a charismatic villain, it is still a -1 from your hand. So you are already guaranteed a -2 because you're playing green. Most probably Rosie has deflect. It is gonna be a -2. You play charismatic villain, it is a -1. Why at this life point for self search, our Jeremy, our self search player here, would you do a -1 to pop away that Rosie? Because if that Rosie is gonna swing 3 times, I think he's still fine, right?
That is very true. He is
is-
at
that
6
is a good
life
point.
still. Yeah, he probably didn't need to remove it. The fact that it could swing potentially 3 times may not have been an issue, but it's more it enables Wang to just combo away cards from his hand he doesn't need, and then potentially get up to sparking. So the longer that Jeremy can delay this sparking 7 from being online and the leader to actually kind of be useful, because right now
Mhm.
it's just 15k nothing. So I think the longer this game goes, Jeremy probably feels he's at an advantage just because of all the cards he can put in his drop, which he gets more value from. Whereas Wang only runs the Ribrians, and I don't think he runs any of the draw reps in the main. So he's probably
All
willing to
right.
just play the long game and just keep on stalling as long as possible until he feels he's ready to win.
Hmm. So for people who are the viewers who are not so aware of the starter Broly, number one, you should be aware. Number two, if you are not aware, the auto comes in with Sparking 7 that when you have only 7 more cards in the drop area, when this card attacks, you get to draw cards until you have 6 cards back into your hand. So if he is unable to get the 6 cards into his drop area, 7 cards into his drop area, that effect doesn't take place.
Yeah, it's a very like powerful skill. It's cool
Mhm.
to see that this is a old starter deck leader, right? Like it's something that a lot of players when they see, they're like, okay, this is just something you used to kind of learn about the game and get into it a little bit. But the fact, honestly, like as it stands, is a very powerful leader, one of the most powerful leaders ever brought into the game. And again, as Kevin was bringing up before, a big thing is this sparking 7, right? Like again, he's only sitting 4 cards in the drop area, unable to really get there because he doesn't want to, give too many cards over to Jeremy, right? So he's just that's why we're seeing it such a like much of a more lower pace, right? There's only the 4 cards in drop, and like both players know that like on these big turns, these big explosive turns, one player is getting like kind of ripped to shreds, right? One of their hands is going to 0. So we'll have to see like when that turn is. It's kind of like everyone's just sitting on the edge of their seat, and we'll have to see how it goes on moving forward. So yeah, should be good.
Mhm. So if you're talking about starter deck Broly being a very powerful leader, the Cell Search Broly, it's also extremely powerful leader with a such ability when he's unawakened like none other. Do you have any, like, he can activate main, look at top 5, pick any card, put it into hand. Of course you have to discard one, but with a drop area strategy like Cell Search, having Ribrian, having Koizukai, having the Cell Xeno at home, just to put it into a drop area, just to activate it from there. So it's actually not a minus. Do you think there's any other leader comparable to this one when it comes to such ability?
For that, no. The only one that does have a similar effect is the Harugon, the mono blue Harugon leader from, I believe, I want to say it's set
Ooh,
14, the one with like
14.
his, yeah,
14.
14. That's the only one that has a similar effect. But just for like raw functionality, is like the difference between that is like, so the reason why a lot of people aren't a big fan of Cell Surge, that it's not fun to verse Cell Surge, is the fact that Cell Surge can play the entire game without necessarily having to interact with your opponent, right? Like you have this active main. All right, I'm gonna look at top 5. Like all of the effects on the Cell Surge leaders are active mains. That it doesn't matter what your opponent's doing. You can resolve them at any phase in the game if the correct conditions are met, right? And then the rest of your deck is simply just playing cards that rip cards from your opponent's hand here. Like you got the Rosie, you play it. Your opponent discards 2 cards, and then against triple attack, you got Rebrand from the drop. You got all your draw reaps. You got all these cards that it doesn't matter what your opponent's doing. You can just kind of do it on your own. You're playing your own game. You're playing the solitaire deck, as I like to call it. So I think it's one of a kind of this raw power, where the only deck in the past that could previously do similar things to it was the Piccolo Surge Leader, funnily enough, before it could get errated. But yeah, just the ability to be able to resolve your entire deck without needing to ask or interact with your opponent at all is just so powerful, and that's why it can be so frustrating to verse. Because you can feel like you're doing you're playing the game how you feel like it's meant to be good. You're like meant to be played, right? You're going at your own pace, doing your own thing, and Cell Surge is not having to worry about a lot of things. Just eventually will get your hand down to 0, and then it's kind of just is what it is from that point going on. So I think, yeah, for raw power, I think Cell Surge is one of these leaders with like the highest power in the game for sure. Definitely, the effects it have is so uniquely powerful that it cannot be undervalued how good this leader is. It is made a top 4 at Worlds, right? So we'll have to see if it can make get third, I guess, now is as far as it can go. Now looking, yeah, you want to go, Melvin?
Did you guys know what happened there? I thought he was swinging with Zabon.
Yeah, so he swung with Zarbon, comboed up to 2 cards to get sparking. He wanted to get up to 6 cards and drop.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy took the hit from the leader, then he popped it with his leader ability, causing Jeremy to then have to drop another card from Zarbon effect, and now he will have sparking 7 in the drop. So he is
Ooh,
now
oh
tapping out to
yeah.
play another Rosie. So
I
this
forgot that the
is
leader has that ability.
So it's very powerful, and the fact that you could draw a plus, you could be able to kind of a free removal. You have to sacrifice one of your own cards,
Mm-hmm.
but every card in the deck really doesn't mind just dying, being removed when it needs to be removed. So the Broly chain itself goes up by you KOing it, and all of these cards which want to be KO'd to get extra effects. So it
Yeah,
is a very powerful effect as well. So we
yeah.
see the Rosie coming down, tapping out for that probably feels like he's never going to lose just from a pure aggressive turn. So he's happy to just tap out every turn to try and whittle down Jeremy's hand and just put on the pressure. At a certain point, Wayne just has to start doing damage. He's not going to win. They're not going to mill each other out. So at a certain
Oof.
point, Jeremy will be getting those cards to the hand. So it's just about when Wayne feels like he needs to give them.
I
Wow.
feel like
Okay.
it's
So. Mm-hmm.
going to be this turn here, right? He's finally
Mm.
getting some value from all his effects, right? He's got
Yep.
Sparking 7, he's got this Rosie primed for triple attack, and no Freezer Charismatic coming out. Like, he might not be able to push for a game this time, but he'll definitely push for a lot of damage. And then, depending on how hard he goes, it can be very worrisome if he goes too hard, right? I don't think he can close this game out this turn unless maybe he's got an overwhelm in hand to follow up with the Rosie, right? But the thing is that as well, like, the big thing about Broly, he's always at 6 cards in hand here. 6 is not a big number. Cell Surge can easily rip you 6 cards, especially since he's unawakened, right? He can resolve maybe even triple Rebriand if he awakens with it, right? So we'll have to see what he decides to end up doing. So I think Pro has to be a little careful with how hard he decides to go this turn, because it might bite him if he goes a bit too hard.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you go hard and you go hard and you go hard, he does not need to commit any cards in his hands, because ultimately when his leader swings, he's just going to draw back to 6. Whether you commit cards in your hands, whether you not commit cards in your hands, you're just going to draw back to 6. And if there's something that I always kind of like live by, is that, hand destruction, it's hand destruction. But applying pressure to your opponent, it's also hand destruction, because your opponent, if they want to defend, they need to commit cards from their hands.
So we see Jeremy going down to 2 life here, just getting ready. So he probably knows exactly how many attacks are coming left. There's only realistically 2 more attacks from Wang. So if he combos out the next attack, he's probably safe for the turn. We haven't really seen any overwhelms from Wang this whole time, so I think he's probably safe. So I have to see whether or not he does. It is looking like he's choosing going down 1 though. So he may be potentially baiting Wang as well, because still having that ability to awaken at any point and untap draw 2 is very powerful.
Yes, this might be actually a pretty bad situation if he overcommits here, because those who don't know what SCR that Jeremy is running, the card he's running is the Kibito Kai SCR, right? The Majin Buu Kibito Kai SCR Absorb. I know I said the name wrong, but we know what card I'm talking about, right? The one that steals unisons. That's the big thing, yeah. So if he does decide to overextend here, right, with this Bardock, he can dump everything, and then it's simply just like, all right, cool, that's a nice unison. It'll be a shame if I would, I'll just take over it, I'll just steal it. He's got his Demiga on board. All that he needs to do is just awaken, put a green and yellow card under his leader, flip that bad boy over, and then just simply play the Kibito Kai, and he'll just take over this Bardock unison, and he doesn't have to worry about it at all. So I think it's never safe to go into with the unison, which is very rare, because there's not that many cards that allow you to deal with unisons in this manner, right? Like, just being able to straight up, the only card in the game that lets you steal a unison, let alone do it in the battle step, right? So I think it is a correct play to not go too hard with this Bardock.
Yep, but I think you can see that Poan over here, he really knows what to do, which is because he swings it, applies the pressure, but he is not gonna commit. And a 15k swing, it's a 15k swing. Usually at this stage, you do have a leader which is at 15k, so usually your opponent just need to commit like a 0+5k combo, just get out of it. However, Jeremy here is playing the Surge Cell leader. What you really don't want to do is you really don't want to be awakened during your opponent's turn, because you're gonna miss out on the ability just to get the cards, because once you're awakened, you don't get to draw anymore. Yep.
Yeah, that is the biggest drawback with the Surge leaders. So there's four of them.
Hmm.
They all have the similar effect. There's once you've awakened with them, you can awaken any time. You must be below a certain health percentage, and then you can activate the effect of that leader by placing one of the cards underneath in the drop area. So effectively, once you decide to awaken, you get a really powerful awaken by generally either untapping two and drawing two, or untapping one and drawing three. So you get a huge burst of extra power. But then after that, you've only got two more effects that you can effectively play for the rest of the game. So it's definitely a balance of knowing when to give yourself the big boost, and then you have to just win out from there. Otherwise, you've kind of handicapped yourself for the rest of the game.
Hmm. All right, in this situation, John, what do you think that a Cell Search player can do? He is gonna put down his fourth energy, right? And I would imagine Poan here has 6 cards in his hands. Do you
Mm.
think this Cell Search leader, it's Jeremy here, would be able just to remove that 6 card and just go in for the 4 life?
Yeah, definitely. Like that's the big thing we were talking about before, right? Like 6 is not a big number for Cell Surge, right? Cell's been able to rip even like larger hands than that. I've seen it just in general at tournaments. Anytime the Cell Surge leader is played, it has plenty of ways to just destroy much larger hands. And the fact that now it is only 6, that's like half his hands gone from like a Ribrianna leader skill, right? And that's honestly like you'll still have 4 energy up. This is a very pivotal turn, I'd say, in the game. This can be what happens, like again, as I was saying in the previous turn, like if depending on how hard Poe went, right, he might put himself in position where he loses on the crackback here. Like 1 life, sure, if he doesn't
Mm.
get through, it might be a bit tricky to survive following turns. But that being said, if he's able to just rip Poe's hands to shred here, like Poe's just got, he's holding his hands. He's going to be discarding a
Mm.
lot of cards here. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Have to see. But I think this will be the deciding turn of the game here because
Yeah.
like 4 energy is prime. That's so many options you have. But the big thing is now is like, does he have the cards to actually deal the 4 damage? Is the next big thing here. If he does have that
Mm.
Kabita or Kai SCR,
Hmm.
potentially, right? That's a double strike 40k right there, gain control of that unison additional swing. Plus you get the Bardock skill, right? So yeah, here's the first Ribrianne he's resolving, right? He's putting it straight to the drop. And the
Hmm.
leader hasn't even awakened yet. This is like it's pretty good position to be in. If
Yep.
you are Jeremy here, this is what your
Yep.
game winning turn.
Yep. And he could just easily just use that Rebrian's effect because tapping 2 energy and he's unawakened. It's it's a free 2 energy. So we are not seeing just 4 energy here. It's actually 6 in this round for our Cell Search player. Oh, he does a
Mm.
-3, which remove Rosie on the board.
Does he have a surprise attack to come with that in hand? Does not look like it. He's flicking through. Oh, here it
No,
is.
no,
This
no.
is
Oh, it's Dark
Broly
Broly.
Unison.
That makes sense.
Boom.
Okay, so
Remove
he's not.
Okay.
remove what you can with it. You don't really want to swing with it. I guess he's trying to remove all cards from hand before he starts swinging in. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
I
and
can
mean, he
easily
does.
remove one or two at a time. Once you
Yeah.
get them down to 0, you swing in, give them one card, use leader effect, remove it, go in again, and that's the general game plan of Cell Surge.
Yep. And
Mhm.
then even this Broly still like it has the ability to with this Deborah remove a marker, you have to discard a card. Then plus the uptick +2 ability, you discard a card from hand and so does your opponent. This Broly itself is like a Brienne to an extent. It will be making your opponent discard a couple of cards a turn. So this is a good play. This is how you're gonna start pushing through for damage, right? This is what you need to do if you're Jeremy here. You're on 1 life. You don't really have the luxury to fall back that many later turns this game. This is your big turn. This is where you have to show up. You need to push through, see if you can clutch it out this turn. And we'll see he's going to awaken here. And the big thing is like, what does he decide to do for the rest of the turn? Are we going to see a Rosie? Are we going to see other bits and pieces? It's hard to say. So we'll just have to see what he decides to do for this turn. This is going to be very, very pivotal here.
Guys, on the Broly itself, it seems that there are 2 markers. Is that
Yes, he's only
correct?
used the Deborah card, one where you get to remove a marker from
Okay.
your unison, and then
Mhm.
he hasn't upticked yet. He'll probably be doing
Okay.
that in a second. Just got to see some more cards in hand. I got to flush out his options.
Mm.
Mhm. And that's the amazing part about this Broly because he is a 20k double strike. Let's be real over here. You are not going to be easily removing this team, this
Mm.
unison, right? You're not going to be easily removing some of the markers here. But this card, it's not a +1. This card, it's a +2 every single turn. So it's a 3 marker doing a +2. It goes up to 520k. Forget it. He's going to stay on the board. And
Mm.
I think green has one of the best options, right? When it comes to free counterplays.
Yeah, of course. Like you have access to Green has arguably the best two Unison exclusive cards or Unison supporting cards in the game, being Charismatic Villain, Freezer, as well as Dormant Potential. Right, like those two cards are so powerful. Unfortunately, Cell Surge can't use Dormant Potential because that card is locked to mono green leaders only.
Hmm.
However, Charismatic Villain is such a powerful card. A lot of decks just opt to run Demigra Unison just to pair it up with that. And
Mm.
yeah, this Dark Broly, of course, one of the strongest Unisons in the game, so hard to remove. And has such like powerful, like long-lasting effects, destroying your opponent's hand constantly. And it looks like Rosie's coming out here, forcing him to discard two more, put him down to I believe one card in hand, I want to say, or two cards, and then
Two
combine with
cards left in hand.
and then with the
Yep.
leader skill, does he have
So
charismatic
basically,
here to get rid of it?
yep.
Is the question.
Yep. So charismatic is actually one of the best way to get rid of Rosie. However, you still have to deal with that discard two cards effect. But at least you take away the 15k aggression. 15k, like swing 3 times, it's actually very, very annoying.
And I think this is what we're about to see here. He's got 4 15k swings. He just needs to get him down nice and slowly 2-2 life, right? And then from there, once he's on 2 life, just go for the Broly, and you should be able to out combo. Like it's not that hard to to deal that much damage when he's only got 2-3 cards in hand. You should be able to out combo for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a look. What are some of the options? Because if you can bring him down to like 0 cards in his hands, because he needs to commit, guess what? His energy option for the next turn, it's gonna be pretty difficult. All right.
So we see this swinging into the Rosie swinging into leader most likely. The question is, does he want to combo a 5k to guarantee the hit, or is he just willing to risk it? Yeah, so takes it. He's got plenty of attacks. He probably doesn't even mind if he wastes. If he goes down to 0 cards in hand to out combo the first hit, he's probably also just got to have 0 cards for the rest of the turn. So it's probably best just to take the first one and try and hopefully get something like a dormant to save him. But even a dormant now probably doesn't do it because he has the leader swing for a single and then double with the Dark Broly.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
the Cell Surge leader has not activate his ability, right? So we do not know which one is he going to be choosing.
he has already used it. He has already used it.
He he made him drop a card with nothing to KO.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
that's
that's
That kind of
I think
signals
it's
that he's going in for the game.
Ooh,
here we go.
Homicidal Clone.
That is huge.
Yes.
Being able to get another card, cycle another card into hand, plus have a blocker on board. I think this may have just saved him.
Actually saved him the game here. Nothing else he can do. Not on top of that as well, 2 cards in hand, and this Bardock will also do some work, right? Being able to snipe any of the combo cards too. This Homicidal Clones might have just won him the game, honestly. Like not being able to push through it. He's only got, I think 1 more swing left with Rosie, I want to say. So this could be it. He has to pass it. Jeremy feels that way too.
Okay, he's gonna swing, and of course we expected this. He is gonna be blocking with the clone. I want to say that I really appreciate all the players here because they really just prepared their token cards and just commenting on all the games. They really put in the effort just to find a token card and put it. And if you take a look at Jeremy's board, all the plus 5k, every single token that he needs, all the single counters, he has it ready.
I think this is huge for huge here. I think this Homicidal Clone's actually just straight up one pro of the game. Just being able to deny not only this double strike swing, the one that he needed to go for the game, but on top of that as well, the big thing he denied was like Rosie can't push for a game either now. He stopped all the attacks successfully. And I think you can see from the look of Jeremy's face, he knows that he's going into game 2 here has to win the next 2 games. I think he should be able to, from this point here, Wang should just be able to take it. He's got his own rebrands in the dropper. He's got 5 energy to work with. There's so many options he's got here. Heck, even another powerful card he can drop is maybe even this margin brew 5 drop, and he can still swing with his leader card. This is gonna be a big turn for him, so we'll have to see.
I'm very surprised he did choose to charge though.
That's why he's gonna combo Rosie and Brienne. Give Cell Surge a taste of its own medicine. You know, Cell Surge loves destroying his opponent's hands, but now I think this is what we call karma, right? He's gonna go down to 1 card here, so we'll have to see.
I mean, it's a game of back and forth, right? And said, hey, if you can do this, I can do that too, and then it's like you can do that to me, I can do that back to you too. Let's see who is more painful. But I think we can all agree, Rosie at 4 life and Rosie at 1 life, that triple attack. It's gonna make a lot of difference.
Yeah, I'm bound to agree, and I think it's just a matter of a formality at this point, right? Only one card left in hand, and heck, Broly Leader still has not swung yet, so it's gonna be quite good. Yep, he's just
Yeah,
scooping. We're
he's just
going
gonna
to game
scoop. He just
2.
knows.
That
Mhm.
homicidal clone's coming in clutch here. So even though I was saying, I'm very surprised that he wasn't able to make Pro discard more cards here. The fact that he was left with cards in hand. Pro this entire tournament knows exactly what cards he needs for every situation. He just utilizes everything to such like a high degree, right? And he was able to
Mm.
sneak this win out to in a position where he could have easily gotten closed out from like all these cards, like right. But that
Mhm.
one card he had left in hand, unfortunately for Jeremy, he wasn't able to discard the all 6. Only 5 on that
Mm.
turn, leaving the one card that Pro needed to win the game because that one card turned into
Yeah.
6 cards on the following turn, and he was just able to clutch it out. Very nicely done.
Mm.
I feel so bad for Jeremy here because, like what you said, he had that one card, and the one card was that one card that he needs to get rid of. So some people in the comment section, the viewers at the comment section, says one of the things it's basically Poan just pulled the Uno reverse card, like
Reverse, yes,
like
of
boom,
course.
On a reverse card.
just swing back. And also,
That's so
when it
good.
comes to Jeremy himself, if he would have the overwhelm Toa in that turn, it's gonna be so good for
Exactly.
him because
Yeah.
that it's gonna be removed that homicidal clone.
hmm Very nicely done, though. Going into
Yes.
game 2, I'm curious to see what these players will sideboard. Again, we know we've seen a bit of Poe's sideboard. He's got cards such as commemorative photo. Might bring that in for the flex once again. But for um for Jeremy here, I wonder if he's got any cards in his side to deal specifically with these anti hand destruction like other hand destruction matchups. If he's got anything like that, we'll have to
I
wait
mean,
and see.
if he is a hand destruction player, guess who are the players who knows how to do with hand destruction? The people who are playing hand destruction. So I'm
Of
pretty,
course,
That is
of
true.
course.
I'm pretty sure that he's prepared. He knows what to do,
Mm.
and this is going to be a pretty interesting matchup.
Mm. I think,
Go
I was
ahead,
just saying, I
Kevin.
think a slight adjustment he could make was probably try and get Poeng down to maybe 3 or 2 life, and letting him sit there, and then going in for that big turn. I think the biggest issue was 4 life is still a lot of swings that need to get through for him to be able to take the game that turn. So if you only have 1 or 2, if he only has 2 or 3 life left instead, he only needs one less attack to go through, and it makes his life a lot easier. So maybe we'll see Jeremy swing in with leader a couple of times earlier, or maybe in with the unison and just pressure him a little bit more, because he's going to Broly's always going to draw back up to 6 anyway. So you might as well just give him just pressure him and see how he's going to react to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if you are going to be the cell search players here, what are some of the sideboard options that you already put into your deck? Can you think of any immediately?
Honestly, it feels like he's already mainboarding a lot of stuff. The big thing that Cell Surge
Mm.
players started adapting to with the introduction of the Boro is playing what do we call it, Marseille, right, in the main. It's just the card that straight up just answers that card. But looking at just general options, I don't really know if there's anything Cell Surge can play for this particular matchup. There's no way to
Mm.
really stop Broly going back up to 6, right? And you've already got cards to answer his chain with charismatic villain Frieza. I think it's like, and at the end of the day as well, if you're Jeremy looking back at that game, right, you can just see it and it's like, oh, okay, I had to discard one more card. That was the problem that game,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't think you come away from that game. It's like, well, damn. I got smoked. No,
Yeah.
you lost by essentially one card, right? And sometimes that
Mm.
just happens. That's just the nature of any card game, really, right? So I think you just gotta push through. You got these 2 more games to go through, and you can still definitely take it if you're Jeremy. I don't think there's too many like cyber
Mm.
cards you need to worry about. I think his main board was well equipped to deal with this Broly deck. It's just a bit unfortunate for him that the one card Wang had was the one card that could win him the game.
Yeah.
That is true. We can't forget that it was literally he almost did win anyway, but it was the one token negate that did kind of save Poang. So if he didn't have that, the game would have been very different. So I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't. Yeah, I probably would. Maybe if you side in some of the green Vegeta, so anti-hand destruction himself,
Mm-hmm.
because he was discarding cards at a pretty regular pace. But I wouldn't. I would also not make too many sideboard decisions and just stick with the original game plan and just do it again.
Mm-hmm. I have a confession here to make, though. Okay, so here we go. This is going to be very difficult for me. When I know that I was going to cast this game, I was overwhelmed with excitement and also conflict. You know why? Because I am living in Germany. So obviously, I am naturally going to support the European region. But, also I come from Asia. So Singapore. And it's not just I come from Asia. Actually, I'm a Singaporean, so Pawan has also quite a lot of bias here. And the people who created the deck, I know them personally. They were the people, the Broly deck. I know them personally because they were the one who taught me how to play the Dragon Ball Super card game. So without them, there is no me. And so a lot of conflict, a lot of bias here. But I think we know that we are going to be having a good game. So game number 2 has started. The first energy goes down. Are we going to be seeing another commemorative photo from Poan?
Could
It'd be
potentially.
great.
That would be pretty funny for sure. But I think looking a bit more like what we expect him is going to do. Most likely turn 1 is this Broly, right? Charging
Ooh.
homicidal clones.
Mm.
Again, it did come in clutch in the situation. Might be a little different going second here though. You do have that one additional card, right? And you have the option to start swinging. Let's see what he decides to do here. He's searching for most likely the Broly one drop, right? It's the bread and butter of the
Mm.
deck. The leader just
Yep.
starts making the deck function. You don't, so it doesn't even matter if you like miss your mulligan, right? You'll see the one card you need to start drawing more cards. This Broly here, so
I mean,
already
if you, yep.
no, you go, sorry, you go.
Unless you're super unlucky and it goes into your life.
Of course. that is a very big downside.
All three in life. That is very rough. Yeah,
Looks
that
like he's
is-
thinking about counterplaying this already turn 1. He's charismatic villaining.
Ooh.
Very surprised about
Ooh,
this.
wow.
He's got a. The thing about this that's crazy, you can actually just opt to you take the 2 more life and just play that out immediately. This is
Yeah.
a very interesting play. I don't know if I agree with this. Does he have the Broly 4 drop in hand as well? Flicking through it, not entirely sure. It doesn't seem that way, but you can just get such a massive influx of cards from the first turn. And
Wow.
there he
Awaken
is
turn 1.
in turn 1. And then there it is. There's the 4 drop
Wow.
Broly. I think that was a bit of a misplay from Jeremy, honestly. I don't think you need to deal with this 1 drop. You're kind of playing into your opponent's hand. Wang will eventually just do this anyway. Now he's got such a massive hand for sure going into this turn. And
Yeah.
it's crit, 20k crit. You're
Mm.
not dealing with that. Then this is the second charismatic gone already. I don't agree with that play, unfortunately.
Mm.
But we'll have to see Awakening here as well, getting more cards. And that's ridiculous. If he's got a
He has a
if he's
7
got
drop. He can play it as well, just based off
exact,
the leader's effect.
and that's
Ooh,
gonna be
he's
crazy.
gonna
I
do
think
it.
he's got it in hand. He's got it in hand.
Sure, if he's removing this, he would have to have it. This means he's
Here we
also
go.
going to. Oh,
He's
No, he
discarding
has to
two
discard
cards.
the cards.
choosing the 2 to discard. Yep, I was like, that's a funny looking Broly, but yeah, this is huge because now he can swing, use the
Oh
Broly's
no.
effect to burst 3 as well, so he'll be
He'll
able
have
to get to
Sparking
sparking
7 live.
7 as well.
Wow, this is such an aggressive start from Starter Broly, and this is the power of Starter Broly, right? The
Mm.
problem is he has so many cards in his hands, and that charismatic villain just popping it because it's removed by a skill, so you are able to awaken early and also play the 4 drop. And then there is a charismatic villain on the board for Jeremy. He's able to use the leader, pop his own card, pop that charismatic villain just to play that 7 drop. And now there is a 30k crit every single turn that helps in the burst 3, getting to that sparking 7 so they can draw us back to 6.
It's gonna
Exactly.
be
Wow.
very rough for Jerry to remove as well. He doesn't really have a inherent way to remove big cards this early on, other than the charismatic villain. So it's gonna be interesting to see whether or not he goes for the play of putting another Demigra under his unison and just forcing himself to use the neg 3 so early and losing that flexibility.
Yeah, again, it's like just going back to that turn 1. This is the Demigra being live from turn 1. Normally, it's such an amazing thing. You get to counterplay whatever your opponent decides to play on the following turn. Just try and harass them. But in this situation, it was just not the correct play. He's playing this Broly turn 1 and then in his second turn, Pro will go out of his way to remove it. But you literally just skipped that whole step for him. He's got his whole second turn. Anything you can already kind of tell he's preparing for the Bardock Unison to come out, pop this Paragus, untap one, and just go to town. This is such a nicely a massive punish, honestly, from Pro getting this 7 drop Broly turn 1. Normally it's not possible, but it was enabled just from that charismatic villain. got a massive
Mhm.
influx of cards. Sparking 7 enabled. Yes, he did burst 2 super combos, is what it is. But you just see the hand difference already. He's forced to use these droids here, and it's not going to get better. This Broly on the board is just going to get so much value here because
Yep.
this active battle effect is on
But
both turns. It's going to be a
yep.
very big grind coming from Jeremy here.
Yep.
Mm.
But unless Jeremy here, oh, does he have it? Does he not have it? Because one of the ways that he can remove it is if he has a Demigra Unison in his hands, because just stack it underneath, just do a -3 because you really need to get that Broly out from the board.
Yeah, for sure. So I even see him using his energy just to draw 2 more cards using that the ape, just because he has. I think he only started that turn with 4 or 5 cards in hand, and he just had a major disadvantage. So he is doing the play most likely, where
Mhm.
he will neg 3 on it just to remove this 7 drop because it's such a huge threat.
Mhm.
The
Even
potential
then-
to lose a card of hand.
Mhm.
And even then, it's just like you kind of don't even like. Yes, it does suck you lost your 7 drop, but honestly, for Pro, that 7 drop's just like extra. You know, that's just the cherry on
Mm.
top of the cake. You don't normally get the opportunity to play that card. You kind of use it if you get the line of play. And the thing is, as well, you have to use another card under your Demigra Unison, and then you have to sacrifice it. Charismatic's now offline, and he's already that was 2 Demigra Unisons down. He's used 2 charismatic villains. I think you're feeling. I feel like you're getting ready to play commemorative photo here if you're Pro. He's in a very comfortable position.
Okay, guys, can you guys help me out here, Kevin and John? Are we looking at a slow control hand destruction game? Because it doesn't seem that way. Because it seems that both of them, even though I'm really liking the Broly deck here because it is a hand destruction card, a deck that has the ability to go very, very aggressive.
It does. I don't think it'll be going as hard anymore now that the 7 drop
Mhm.
has been removed. Like that's the good thing from Jeremy that he was able to like kind of start fixing the bigger incident from turn 1, right? But I think at this point it will probably slow down a little bit right now. Both players have nothing on board. Both players need to get reestablished, yeah. And it's mainly going to be stuff like the Zarbon coming out. So some smaller plays. If the board didn't get cleared in the previous turn, we most likely would have seen a Bardock dropped here from Poe, but he can't really afford to tap out with it. Like, you know, no real reason to leave it just out there to die on the following turn. So I think that is fine because most likely, if I'm Jeremy, I'm probably going to try and get a Dark Broly Unison out on the following turn.
Mhm. Do you think that Poe a little bit overcommit for his previous round, or do you think that that should be like the right thing to do? It seems that some gas has been lost here.
I think that was fine, right? Like, it's
Mhm.
very rare. Like, again, normally it's impossible without
Mhm.
like something like that happening to get this 7 drop out turn 1. Normally it is a turn 2 play, and it kind of just let him do something else on his second turn, right? And then it forces Jeremy to have ways to clear this big Broly. And now like you're just looking at Jeremy's hand, it's already fairly dwindling just from that turn 1, right? Like Broly kind of valued like 3 cards there. 2 of the Broly's got a crit swing in, plus that burst ability, right, to discard an additional card. He's not that many resources available to him, and it doesn't look like he has anything to play. But of course, leader skill enables him to add an additional resource. Hopefully, it's something that he does need. But it's just so rough, just from turn 1. It feels like you're a bit more comfortable going into the game first, but now it just feels like it's an uphill battle. Just from again, I just want to capitalize. This turn 1 could be like what decides this entire game for Jeremy. It's just a bit of a misplay, and it just feels like he's feeling the burden of that like mistake, right? It's cost him so much.
And Kevin, what do you think in this situation? Would you go for hand destruction if you are Jeremy, or would you go for a draw apes?
I would most likely be looking at the droids as he does, just because you just want to see the more options. You know, you're not going to die or lose the game anytime soon. You still are sitting at 6 life. You're pretty safe. Broly can't really push through that much damage that fast, and so you
Mhm.
want to save that hand destruction for that one big turn where you're trying to take them from 7 to 0 to back up to 4 down to 0 again, and just make them so they have no resources. So you want to save as many options as you can for later on, and just keep your hand as big as possible for now.
Dominant potential, such a good card, but against a deck that doesn't really swing until it goes until the end of the game. I
Mm.
believe charging it is good. Tapping 3, we know what's coming. It's gonna be
Mm.
Rosie with deflag. Your opponent has to send 2 cards
Mm.
to drop, and it is a triple attacker. But I think we mentioned this.
Oh, hello,
Oh,
Vegeta
Does he have any
sideboard tech
option?
coming in.
No. Here we go.
yeah.
Drawing 2 for that card.
I guess he does have some sideboard tech, as you were saying before, Melvin. The
Ooh.
players that know how to deal with hand destruction are hand destruction players themselves. This Vegeta is huge. For those at home that do not know what this card does, everyone notices that Andrew Devol was playing the yellow version of this card, the Gohan, that when it's discarded from your hand by an opponent's skill, you get to play it for free and simply draw a card. And Green has its own version as well, being this Vegeta. Sideboard coming in clutch here, straight up turning this Rosie into a big +2. I think he needed this. I think Jeremy really did need this here. Finally get to see he gets 10k combo power on the board and gets to see 2 additional cards. This might actually be something that slowly gets him back into this game because it does feel like he's on the back foot. But finally, something's going his way. It feels very nice for this to happen.
The funny thing is though, this is almost a double-edged sword because now it's enabled the Broly leader effect. So Wang, Poang can now swing in with that Zarbon if he wants and apply even more pressure before popping it. But it looks like he's just choosing to take the solo route. He thinks Jeremy has too much hand, and it's just not really worth giving him more cards right now. So he just wants to drag it out and go a little bit longer, I think.
Yep. But you can see that one of the ways that, Jeremy plays like hand destruction, right? With Cell Search. One of the strategy that he does is that in the first game, you can see that he does Rebrand, like letting his opponent chooses the cards to drop. But after the second game, you see that Jeremy goes more for the draw. And the reason is that why he does that, it's that he only does hand destruction when it is a random snipe, so that his opponent's cards like Debura or decided in things like this green Vegeta or this yellow Gohan, they do not have the chance to use it unless it is by a random chance. And so this is one of the strategy that our Cell Search players deploys in his previous games, just to take the sideboard option out of the hands of his opponent.
Yeah, I think
Here we
that's
go.
actually a really heads up thing to do, right? Like again, there's so many cards in the game now that punish you for hand destruction, specifically this Vegeta, for example. But that being said, though, Broly doesn't really have those options to run those cards. I wonder if Jeremy's aware of that. The big reason being, we talked about before, Broly only lets you have 2 battle cards in your battle area at a time, and that's already been meant by this Zarbon blocker and this Rosie, right? Even if he did want to play the Deborah, yeah, or even if you want to play the Vegeta that just got resolved here, he doesn't really have that option to, right? Like he's literally got no room to play them. So I think maybe worrying about a bit less about the sideboard thing. I think he's just gonna start ripping out the hand is what I think is the optimal thing to do.
So let's see what are some of the options that he does. One of the interesting part when it comes to this sideboard option, like for example, Vegeta and Yellow Gohan, is that you have to play it. So one of the combos that he actually do, it's Koizukai it from the drop, send it out of the game. So if he managed to accidentally snipe at random your opponent's battle card, like the Vegeta and Gohan, your opponent actually do have to play it. Even he plays it, he draws the 1 card, but he has to send 2 cards to his warp.
He's got another Vegeta here, out of curiosity. He's looking.
But that Vegeta, it's also
not this time. Not this time.
The Vegeta, even though he couldn't swing, it is also a 0+5k, so pretty good to have it on the board.
So like Zarbon's gonna come back out here as well. And again, this is after the explosive turn 1, turn 2. I think the game's starting to slow down a fair bit. I think it's gonna be at the point where both players are just trying to go for like that one big explosive turn. I feel like with Jeremy, I'm not too sure what some of the late game boss monsters are in Cell Surge. Usually the boss monster in that deck is Rosie, right? It's what you're kind of building towards. But then if you're looking from Poe's perspective, he's got plenty of options. He's got the 5-drop Margin Buu, where once it is played, it completely wipes the board of everything, and then your opponent has to discard 2 cards from their hand. And on top of that as well, it makes it so that when your opponent attacks the leader, they have to rip 2 more additional cards. I feel like that's one thing that could come out in the next couple of turns for him. So I think even though it's a bit of a longer game, I feel like Poe doesn't really mind too much. I'm more curious to see what Jeremy's going to be able to do. With more energy, it means more hand destruction, so maybe he can get it down to 0 this game, but we'll have to see what he decides to do.
All right, here we go. We have, I agree with you, the game has stabilized after this explosive turn 1. Very exciting though. So now it's down to skill level. The board state right now, the game state, Cell Search player Jeremy here, it's down to 5 life, and at his 4th energy, And our player here, Poan, he is down to 4 life, and Duck. It's going to be Broly on the board. He doesn't have any unison, though, both players. So the free counter plays and the counter attack for Poan, it's offline right now.
Yeah, I
So
think
here we
it's
go.
like, again, like, it has stabilized, but now I wanted to quickly mention, like, now that Cell Surge finally has a lot of extra energy to work with. Essentially, this turn, if he wants, he can have 7 energy to work with. So that's that alone is just so many cards that he can use to, just rip out Poe's hand. And Poe only has, again, 6 cards, and you're just seeing Jeremy fan his hand out. There's so many cards at his disposal this turn. Curious to see what he'll be able to do to kind of just finally start ripping at Poe. And he can potentially close out soon. Like, it's at that point where it is scary for Poe. Like, now it doesn't matter, you can drop to 6 if you're constantly getting so many cards back and like just ripped into one blow. It's just kind of hard to be able to survive like in the previous game.
So he has already dropped his Black Marseillan, and Black Marseillan is actually a really, really good card because he can actually prevent himself from getting Vegeta back with Black Marseillan. But here we go, tapping 3 to play Dark Broly Unison. We talk about this, how powerful this Unison card has become recently.
Yeah, it has. I feel like it's finally got a home in the deck, specifically being the Cell Surge, right? And then it's just such a powerful card, right? Being able to constantly poke away at your opponent's hand. It's been a 20k double strike by default, means it can't really get hurt by any of these like abilities that remove markers from Unisons, because by default it has double strike, doesn't matter. And then on top of that as well, it's just such a beefy Unison, right? Like constantly getting 2 markers a turn, 20k base. You have to work to kill this Broly. It's just otherwise it's staying around. And if you're Pro, it's not a fun time.
Just forget it. It's not going away. This card, it's not going away.
Yeah, generally when you're playing against Cell Surge, you kind of just forget that Unison's there. You don't really, there's not really much you can do with it. You don't want to remove its markers with skills because otherwise you're losing more cards. So you just like, unless your deck is very specifically tailored to removing Unisons, or you're playing your own Unison, which is Double Striker like the Duran itself, you normally just ignore it and just try and win the game before they have a chance to rip your hand down to 0.
And one thing I'm surprised about, Jeremy had a very quick turn. He literally just played Broly and essentially passed, right? I think he's being very adamant about this amazing one-turn wonder play, got to go for the big, have as much energy as possible. Double Rosie potentially, so many things that he can do for one turn, but now it feels like it's got to be very intense. I'm gonna wonder what Wang's got to opt to do here. Does he have this Martian Boo 5-drop we're talking about to clear the board? I think that'll be huge here. So I wonder what this Rosie is swinging into.
But without the Unison on the board, it's actually very, very scary for him to commit that 5 energy.
That being, yeah, I can see that being a thing. But the Boo also clears your own battle cards too, right? Level 18. Trying to poke away. It doesn't even feel that. I don't think you're too worried about that if you're Jeremy. Your hand's already massive, and you got all the cards you need in your drop area already established. So I think this is fine.
Ooh, what is he doing?
He's just fueling
he
cards.
probably just wants to draw. Yeah.
Yep, I think so. Yep.
Yeah. Just wants to get new cards. Doesn't need any of those. Doesn't need either of the.
Yep, here it is. Margin Brew time, baby. Cleared the entire board. Rosie's gone.
Everything gone.
Everything
the one
is out of here.
huge answer to that Unison as well.
Yeah, again, this Boo is so powerful, right? It's one of the few cards in the game that can clear Unisons from any marker. On top of that, yes, it does clear opponents, your own stuff as well. But in this situation, yeah, tapping out, I think, is what you want to do. Even if he does decide to charismatic villain it or whatever, it's like the Boo has another ability where it's carried by a skill. You have to play it back out from your drop area immediately. So this Boo is not going away anytime soon. I think it's what he'll need to do to just kind of stabilize. This is a very nice play here, resetting this board completely. And now Jeremy's hand doesn't seem as big as it was previously. It feels like a lot of his cards have finally been discarded. 3 of the Vegetas have been resolved already. Unless he's got the 4th, he's not getting an additional value here. And Broly's just comboed all these cards off. He's drawing 5 cards here. He's loving life.
Back up to 6 again.
Yeah, he's drawing back up to 6. And then here we go. The 5-drop Margin Boo unadulterated destruction. This card itself, like what you said, John, that when he comes into play, you choose every single card in all battle area and unison card, ignoring barrier, and negate their skills and place them in this honest drop area. And additionally, your opponent has to discard 2 cards from their hands, And if your leader it's mono green margin card, you place that under. Okay, we don't have to do that. But if you have 5 or more energy, when this card is placed in drop area by your opponent's skills, you get to replay this card from your drop area. Of course, you don't get the effect because the effect you have to play from your hands. However, this card, when it is in rest mode, your opponent cannot attack your leader card unless you choose the card and discard it each time. I think the only way out for this card is actually to use black and send it to warp. And guess what? Unfortunately, our player here, he's playing green and yellow.
Of course. You can just simply use the Cell Surge leader skill, just simply just KO it, right? It does come back in active mode once it is replayed, so it's not too big of a deal. I think the big thing about this card is that like every time it's played, like when this card was initially revealed back when they were doing the set 14 leaks, right? Everyone who saw this card lost their minds. Just reading this card alone, the effect is so terrifyingly powerful. A complete board wipe, the one that gets rid of unisons as well, ignoring barrier. It just resets the board state completely here, as well as netting you 2 cards advantage in hand, right? Like it's such a just crazy powerful card, and it doesn't feel like, yes, tapping up for 5 can be fairly scary, but this Broly deck doesn't really mind too much. It's shown already. It plays stuff like homicidal clones. It has plenty of ways to kind of defend itself even while being tapped out, even without a unison. So we'll have to see if Jeremy's able to push through this game here. Again, he's got, I believe, this turn 5 energy charged and has not awakened yet. So depending on what he decides to do, he can still go for it here. This Boo was able to reset the board state to deal with that Broly unison, but now it's going to be just see what Jeremy can do. Can he push through this margin Boo? Can he push through for game here? Only time will tell, and we'll have to see what his line of play is for this turn.
But one of the things you mentioned before is that if the leader, the Cell Surge leader, when he awakens, he can use one of his ability just to pop that Boo on the board. Yes, he can do that and returns Boo in an active mode board. If you manage to make your opponent does that, you have already win, because now you're at least you know that your battle card is not going to come in rest mode.
Double Ribrianne here, losing 4 out of the 6 cards in hand. Only 2 more cards to the turn, so it does look like Jeremy will most likely be on the route of trying to win this turn.
That
I
being said,
feel like if he awakens now and uses the lead effect to pop it, it'll come back. He will then probably have potentially enough gas to then push through for this 4 damage. But it is like the last game again. Poan sitting on 4 life. It's just the Cell Surge doesn't really have that many attacks. He doesn't have the unison to give a double strike. He doesn't really have that much more he can do for free realistically. So it'll be interesting to see where these attacks are going to come from.
I think the big thing here, he needs Rosie, and he also needs his overwhelm if he wants to push through the game here. That's why I feel like he needs.
Yep, and you have the 2 options there, which allows him to draw additional cards. So under his Surge leader, so I believe, like what you guys said, he has to use it to pop the guys, the margin Boo on the board. I believe that would be his step number 1, or is he going to be showing? Yes.
Here is the Toa. Very nice. He's got the Mythic Boost artwork.
Yeah, I didn't recognize it at first. I was like, what card is that? But
yeah, me too. We were casting his game early on, and it was we got caught off guard. We go like, whoa, what is that Toa again? Removing 1, and then he can draw 1 with that.
That's it. Margin Boo comes back out in active mode. Even though it's kind of nice that he still has that option 2 combo 5k off, but now it's time. Is it solitaire time is the question. Can he push through here? Only a little bit of cards in hand. Again, I think the big thing he needs to close out this game here, I would say, is Rosie. I feel like Rosie is a card that will let him close out. Using this to draw 1 card, very nice. And he's taken the life. He knows he needs to. He knows he needs to go for games this turn, because this Boo 30k swing can essentially push through for game. It just depends on what happens. And even if he doesn't, he can still maybe survive. If he gets a bit greedy and doesn't combo on this Toa, he can. If I'm Poe, I just combo off this Boo. I just stop 1 attack completely, and next turn I draw 6 new cards.
Yep, but you know what but you know what I would love to see? Okay, if I ever gonna get my way, I want to see Jeremy. Oh no, that's
the SCR coming down.
The first swing, it's gonna be this guy. Okay, 20k, 40k double strike.
This is fine. I think this is just the almost the free dub now, because he takes this. Although he doesn't have a Ribrianne drop, so interesting. If he had a Ribrianne drop, he could have used his last 2 energy just to make there be no chance. But we'll have
looks
to
like
see
there's
what
a Champa coming out here. There it is, Champa.
Here we go.
and
That's
sell.
the game
Yeah,
there.
and then
Jumper
just
and
yeah,
sell. Yep.
Hmm. You know, I
another
was
game
saying,
3.
I said that if I ever gonna have my way, what I would love to see is a Jeremy going in, and he couldn't do it. And when it comes to post turn, what he does is he's gonna put down his one energy, tap one, commemorative photo,
Of course.
just
Of course.
just be nice, and
The
maybe
ultimate
see a
flex.
scoop. Yep. It's gonna be, oh, what a game number 2. All right, now if you are
Mm.
Poan, what are some of the options that you can do? It was a pretty good play with that 5 drop, putting the Majibu in. Unfortunately, against Cell Such Leader, there was just an inbuilt ability just to take care of that card, right? Without any energy.
I think it was still the correct play to do, right? He did need to clear the
Mhm.
board. Like the board was getting a little bit out of hand. That turn would have been even easier for Jeremy there if he did not play that 5-drop boo, right? I think it was the correct thing to do. And also correct sequencing as well, playing his STR swing
Mm.
with that first and then going for Chumper swing on the lead. Not particularly too much you can do about that. Realistically, the only way if you survive that turn, if you are pro, is again if you have homicidal clones, which unfortunately he charged one in the first turn of the game, so that was not an option for him. But if that being said, now both players have won when they're on the play when they're going first, right? And of course, I assume Poe's going to pick to go first here as well. So
Mm.
I think this is going to be the big thing. Is this turn one advantage going to be enough to push through for victory? If he's able to establish this 7-drop Broly once again at the start of this game, it could be pretty hard for Jeremy. Like he had to kind of neg a lot of cards in hand just to simply remove it in this game. And like if it stayed on board for longer, it could have gotten way out of hand. And we'll have to see if it gets out of hand again this game.
Okay,
Yeah.
now let us take a look at some of the options that they can do. Of course, Poan here, it's going to be going first. I think when it comes to this type of matchup, there are a lot of advantage just to have that one extra energy. Could you imagine if Poan does have one energy to defend himself after playing the 5-drop, or maybe the 5-drop it's going to come in a turn earlier? I think that's going to make so much of a difference. However, the last game was so interesting because from the start, we saw an explosive start, then the whole game just eventually stabilized, and in just one turn, Jeremy was able to take 4 life off Poan.
It's interesting to see that it doesn't seem like Poen has any of the standard anti-hand destruction cards that you would normally side in, because we didn't see any. He went through a lot of his deck last game and we didn't really see any. So he must believe in the power of his leader just to draw him enough. But as we've seen, the Cell Surge can just rip 10 cards in one turn that sequence correctly and just push through and not really care that you get to draw 6 every turn. I'm not going to take you down to 0 until I'm trying to go for game anyway. So it's interesting to see this back and forth of who can push through the damage the fastest and who can go in at the correct time.
All right, here we go. And guys, viewers were just joining us. A big shout out to you. I think for some of you, it might be either very early in the morning or very late at night. I know because, like I said, I know my friends from Singapore. They're very early in the morning right now. I think that's 7 a.m. for all of you people in Asia. And then when it comes to France, it is my neighbor right now. I live in Germany. It is 12 a.m. midnight, and these two players have been putting in a lot of work, giving us a lot of fun games, getting us excited. But viewers over here, just want to give a big shout out to you.
Yeah, honestly, we wouldn't really be here if you guys weren't watching, So hopefully you guys are still enjoying the games. Hopefully this last game is an exciting one as well. It should be a lot of fun. And honestly, the players have been playing out of their minds as well. It's been so many fantastic games to watch throughout this whole tournament. And hopefully the last couple of games, we have the final game to see who wins the Silver Soul Striker card taking place right now between, of course, Jeremy and Poe. And then after this game at as we'll say before 12 p.m. PST time, we will be having the finals between Deval and Juan here. So plenty of good games to look forward to. It should be really exciting to see, and I'm curious to see who will be taking this game here. Again, Poe is favored going first in this matchup. Once again, will he be able to get out his Broly 7-drop again as early as he did in the previous game, or will Jeremy capitalize and remove it with a charismatic villain? Only time will tell, and hopefully these guys put on a show.
So for people, viewers here, just if you want to stick around the finals, it's going to be at 5 p.m. PST and 8 p.m. PST. And like John has said here, it's going to be between Juan and Andrew. And this is going to be finals. Let's see who's going to be taking home the first Awaken Power reprint.
The only Awaken Power
The only one. Yeah.
Finally, we got a reprint.
One of a kind card.
Yes. All right.
Interesting.
And
Here, it looks like
for viewers who are joining us right now, the game state, it's 1-1. One game to Jeremy, one game to Poan. This is match point. And let's see. The players here have to bring their A game to the table.
very interesting to see that. It feels like it's a slower game coming from Pro here, right? He's only his turn 2 was, instead of playing the Paragus 1-drop or his Unison to start, getting some value on the board. Looks like he's got this 1-drop Broly. Doesn't look like he had the option to do his Unison stuff. Curious to see if he's actually sideboarding Dark Broly Unison. That could be a potential option for him to use, just because there's, again, a bit more cheeky hand destruction, a bit harder to clear. And on top of that as well, it's it's just a good card, right? Like, it is potentially something you could run over the Bardock just for this longer, grindier matchup. But only time will tell. That's just me speculating. Could be completely wrong. Could be irrelevant. But it's just options that they both have at their disposal here. It's just how they want to use all their cards,
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, John. But after the previous round, anything that Powan's going to play, it's going to be slower.
Yeah, I'm bound to agree. Yep.
All right, here we go. Do you think against a deck that has really shown its explosive power, like the Green Broly starter Broly deck, tapping out, it's a good idea?
I think he's fine sitting behind this behind Demiga right now, right? Different now. That if he is able to pop it, right? If he is able to use, what has he decided to do here? Oh, he actually swung into it.
He decided to swing, which is an interesting choice. Maybe he just feels that he doesn't want to give. So this may be why he wants to be proactive in removing the threats. And the faster he can force Poan to go up the chain, the faster he can then remove these big threats, I feel. So I don't know if this is correct though, because it's allowing him to go into the 7 where there's no answer he can have this turn. So it's an interesting choice. So I have to see whether or not he can respond to this.
Mm-hmm. But here we go. But with that Demigra on the board, we already see it in the previous game that -3 it's able to take care of the Broly, and after that just destroy the whole tempo, destroy the whole momentum. Maybe it's just early. It's just better to handle that 30k Broly at the start of the game than at the end.
I would not be swinging if I was Jeremy. You're giving the chance for Poan to use his Broly ability a turn early as well. We'll see if Poan does remember to do this, because plus the super combo and then removing one bottom, discarding another one due to the Broly effect will be huge here.
Yep, he's
and
resolving
he's
it
gonna
now.
activate it. Yep.
Activate
battle.
This feels like it's a little bit Jeremy maybe jumping the gun a little bit and trying to apply just pressure that he may be getting a little bit greedy by applying too much pressure.
No. He has an answer for it.
The Vegeta.
Yep. So one of the cards that viewers, if you are thinking, hey, how do you do with cards like Vegeta, cards like Deborah, it's definitely Koizukai. Koizukai has always been a very good card. Unfortunately, it was also really expensive. But take note, Mystic Boosters in some regions have already been out. And it is coming out for worldwide release. The price of the card, it's pretty affordable right now.
Yeah, of course. Like, it's look, I'm personally not a big fan of Koizukai, but it is getting reprinted. So for those who do not have Koizukai available at them, don't have the card, they should be able to have access to it very soon. And very interesting that, like, yes, even though he is very surprising how much aggression Jeremy's showing this game, like swing with Frieza, swing with whatever he needs to swing with. But he does have these Vegetas, right? He can just simply use these to cycle through his deck a little bit faster than what you normally would, right? Like, yes, this probably does force you to discard a card from hand, but if you just choose the Vegeta, you just kind of just draw a card. It's not a big deal. You don't mind.
Okay, here we go.
This is definitely I was gonna say it's definitely a different playstyle we've seen from the last 2 matches from Jeremy though. In those last 2, he kind of went the long control grindy, lost to an unfortunate token to get in the first game, and then just took it out in the second one. It's interesting to see him after winning the last game doing a certain style, just switch it up kind of completely. Like we saw him swing maybe all of twice in the first 5 turns in last game. So we'll have to see. Maybe going second is such a huge disadvantage. He just feels he needs to do this. Oh,
Wow.
there's the monk combo in the monkey.
Primal Carnage.
Wow, that's
like he
pretty
just-
early.
Doesn't look like he wants to take any damage here, comboing Primal
Mm.
Carnage off. Also comboing off his Paragus 1-drop. Kind of telling that it doesn't appear that he has a very optimal way to remove it with a skill on his next turn. So maybe no Bardock Unison in hand. It kind of just says that he wants to kind of resolve a Zarbon from his drop area next turn. And we'll have to see what he's got here.
Mm-hmm.
Charging Ribrianne immediately. And he's got 1 card in hand, it looks like.
2, I think. I think he has 2 in hand, yeah. So either they were both dead cards or they're just both really important cards. I would assume one of them would be the Unison. But we'll have to see. So swinging with the big Broly first. We'll use the Activate Battle, of course. Just bursting 3.
Okay,
Making-
pretty good burst. Hit nothing too important, I hope.
Well, did lose one of his margin brews, but again, that's much later on in the game. And again, another Vegeta coming out. He's got all the anti-hand destruction cards equipped already, good to go. Discard and draw a card doesn't even feel neg. You're just kind of getting value. Yes, it's still a 30k crit swing. Yes, you'll still probably take it. But hey, you don't mind. You're finally able to like kind of relax and take all these just cards for free. Tapping out
3.
through here.
The
Rosie. Is there
Rosie.
2 more Vegetas coming out? The last 2 he has is the
Oh, that
question.
would be brutal right now for Poang.
Okay, so we have already seen 2 Vegetas making its appearance. So likely, he's gonna pop it. Good options. And then he still need to choose 2 other cards. First one. So it must be not a Vegeta because that's it seems to be a pretty difficult decision for him.
Of course, if it's the Vegeta, you're just playing them straight away, immediately. No thinking required, you know. But yeah, good timing on the Frieza here. I wonder actually, it makes sense to KO the Rosie here, but I wonder if he's gonna try and opt to get rid of this Broly here. If maybe going to his next turn, if he's got the Dark Broly Unison, easier to clear. But I feel like it's, even though now it's already paid itself. Itself already, right? It's used the effect twice, but both times on the Vegeta, right? You still want to clear it. It's not something you want to have left on the board. It is a 30k critical swing, right? Nothing, not something you want to deal with as longer and longer the game goes. It will be accumulating a lot of value. So he'll probably just look to clear it on his following turn.
And it's not exactly a minus, even what we see over here for Jeremy, because he drops that Cell Xeno card. And that card, it's going to draw him back that 1 card later and helps him to reach that 4 life where he can awaken. So it's not a minus. Even though it's not a Vegeta, it is still not a minus.
I think it's actually another interesting thing to look at here. It's actually a very wide board state from Jeremy. He's got his 2 charismatic villains out. He's got the Vegeta. He's got his Unison. Potentially can do some damage on the next turn, right? Like you don't have to get you don't have to wait till Wang has 0 cards in hand to attack. You maybe just get a couple of chip swings in because you know at the end of the day the answer is always 6 cards in hand, and you just have to find the right time to remove 6 from hand and then take it from there. So I think they're sitting very comfortably here. He's able to get these massive boards. These Vegetas coming in clutch here, turning these -1s into +1s. So see if Poe can do something about it. But I feel like Jeremy's kind of slowly squeaking ahead with value in this game.
Yep. But you mentioned that he has a whiteboard, but every single swing that he wants to do with his whiteboard, there is a cost to make because at 10k, he needs to commit a card. So if Poe decided to take a life, so that is a +1 for him. And even for the Demigra on the board, I believe that Demigra, in order to swing also, you need to do a uptick, which is a +1. And if he does that, that means he does not have access to the -3. And I think maybe getting rid of that Broly on the board might be a better idea here. And yeah, so let's see what are some of the options available.
So that was a decent amount of cards in hand, a lot of cards in the battle area. Broly did clear one of the freezes here just by swinging into it. What is he going to charge?
Interesting
here?
that he chose not to, I guess, give him any more cards in hand. Poe probably feels like he just needs to extend the game and get as much as hand advantage as he can from this big 7-drop Broly until it gets removed. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we just see the -3 immediately come out. He'll play the Dark Brawler Unison, Awaken, and then just potentially just almost not play it like Soul Surge and just play it like a mid-range deck and just keep swinging in. He just realizes that he just has the advantage right now. He doesn't really need to go the normal route of down to 0 because the max hand size of 6 is just always is sort of his disadvantage at the moment for the Broly.
Mhm. Well, this is an interesting part, but I think we also need to make maybe point out that all these players, they are playing under a lot and a lot of pressure because they're playing at very, very high stake right now. They really need to win. So many people are looking at them, watching their games, and they have to perform. Could you imagine these players just playing in their just local game store without all this pressure? They can even function so much way better.
They're just smurfing at locals, that's for sure.
They're just going there, getting the winners promos every week, and then calling it a day. It's their Thursday local dude, just another day in the office. Just get another winner promo. But yes, it is a very high stakes situation. Yes, these guys are playing for a silver Soul Striker Reborn card, something that will be, of course, a lot of value for collectors, a lot of value to themselves. And again, like being able to say that you finished third at the first Dragon Ball Super Card Game World Championship is just such an amazing accomplishment in your career as a player, right? Nothing to scoff at. So yes, of course, a lot of riding on the line, and just have to see how these two players are able to close it out. Here is the Demigra -3, get rid of both the cards. And that's just kind of telling. I think we're about to see a Dark Brawler Unison come out here.
Yep, that would make the most sense. Use the most of his energy, can Awaken if he wants to go in. Poen, realistically, has 6 cards in hand right now. If he can start ripping those down, he may even think 2 is enough for me to go in, and just take the advantage I have now and go for game. So the Vegeta on board is just a free 5k combo, probably another free 5k combo with the Freezer as well. So it'd just be interesting to see how hard Jeremy wants to go in this turn and whether or not he has enough to win.
Yep. Putting in some value card under the Cell Search leader, awakening him. Any single card he can choose. If he needs to draw more cards, activate the ability, put the draw apes into a drop area. If he needs some more hand destruction, activates the Rebrian under for even more hand destruction. Or just draw cards. I think I got that wrong. But somehow, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But these are not dead cards under the leader. Every single one of them has a very specific function. Let's see how he is going to be utilizing them.
Yeah, he's using this Broly to get 2 more cards out of hand. I wonder if he's going to play anything else with that 2 energy. Might just simply be a drop area effect. And again, he doesn't really have to go for game here, right? Again, it is always just 6. Maybe he can, instead of going for the hand destruction out this turn. Ooh, okay, never mind. He wants to win this turn. He wants to win this turn.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think that's the power of Cell Search, because you look up to top 5 of your deck and pick any card. There's 2 things. It's you can pick any cards, including your S secret rare, and the best part is you don't even need to show your opponent. So you keep your opponent guessing, and guess what? All these little secrets that you have, it's all this advantage that's going to give you. And especially at this high level, this is all the advantage that you need. And look at that. He has the SCR in his hands. And 4 cards. And against...
I feel like dropping this SCR may have been a little bit of a mistake earlier. You're just showing your hand. Having no energy open, Poen just doesn't have to fear a Champa coming in. So if he can deal with these 2 double strikes effectively, then he's kind of just chilling. He just knows 4 cards in hand, can't really do much more. It's going to be going down now. If he out combos this attack, I feel like Poen is in a huge advantage and will most likely take the game
double
next
18
turn.
super combo. This is going to be the third one coming out.
That's the Poeng special. Every game, dropping both of them together. So every game,
all
be doing it.
Not all 3. Yeah. This is crazy. He actually opted to outcome with his attack. I actually really like this again, Kevin. He just cut his hand in half here. On top of that as well, like you're tapped out. I think this kind of forces Jeremy here to use the other ability of Cell Surge, force all the battle cards to come into rest mode. You can't afford to be tapped out and deal with this. Like here on 2 cards in hand, but guess what? What are you doing to close the game here? You don't really want to attack it. You could. probably is actually better play to attack, but like you can't win this turn here, right? You need to try and get get as many cards out of his hand as possible. Just try and need to restabilize it. That is very terrifying that just happened. Again,
What would you
Broly
do
hasn't.
Yep. What would you do if
Again-
you're Jeremy now?
If you're Jeremy now, I think you need to just reconsider what you're going to do this turn. Having your hand shredded
Mm.
up like that. Again, Cell Surge, the biggest weakness, the worst matchup for Cell Surge is, funnily enough, other hand destruction decks. Once you run out of cards in your hand, you really can't do that much. And in this situation here, this is
No.
exactly... He's gone to rip the
Interesting.
card out of hand.
Oh wow.
Okay, guys.
Interesting,
So
mate.
viewers, what's happening right now? It's Jeremy has two options. The first option, it's a little bit more defensive, which is just pick one option, which is using his Search Cell Leader to make Poe plays every single battle card the next turn in rest mode. Or the other option is just to take one card and make your opponent Poe drop his final card. And guess what? He is gonna make Poe drops his final card. So this is a do or die situation for Jeremy. I believe that we are witnessing the last active or turn.
It's very
for
telling. Is the
this
last
game.
card in
Yep.
hand? It's a Paragus Super Combo. He's
that is
digging for his.
huge.
He's digging for an Overwhelm card. Overwhelm is the only real option he has to close out this game here. Yes, he will take it if he can get him down to 2. It still can be curtains. Like one card in hand. If he swings here, if he can't outcombo all these attacks, right, he's going to combo the 5k. If this Broly swing can go through, it can definitely be the game here. He's willing to risk it all. That is one thing players
But it's
aren't normally
yep.
comfortable with. You have to be willing to put yourself in these terrifying situations
Yep.
in order to win it all. Can this Broly swing go through? Can Pro out combo this attack? Is the question.
20k.
Does he have?
25k.
Is that the game? There it is.
Oh!
5k combo
Oh.
difference. Jeremy has taken it. 5k
Wow.
combo.
Down
That
to the
is
wire.
the game.
Well,
Wow.
this is this always like Poan's game where it is always down to the wire, and then you're gonna see that this crazy play. But come on, Jeremy, what a great play, and he did prove us wrong because all of us were saying that don't do that, reconsider your option, go for the more defensive play. But he goes and he makes the calculation and says that with all the cards that I have, 2, I can do it.